You look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself. The fatigue that won't go away, the stubborn belly fat, the dull skin. You feel that something is fundamentally wrong, but your doctor says your tests are normal. Your body doesn't lie, and it is screaming silent signs that you were taught to ignore. If this feeling seems familiar, decree your sovereignty now and subscribe to this channel, because in the next few minutes, I will give you the diagnosis that no one else has. The truth is, your intuition is correct. The fault is not in you, but in a system that only knows how to look for diseases, not disorders. I am the sovereign of vitality, and in my journey of collapse and reconstruction, I learned to decipher the secret language of the female body. In this decree, we will expose the 5 silent signs of hormonal imbalance that you have been ignoring, so you can stop fighting the symptoms and start commanding the cause. The first sign that your hormonal orchestra is in disarray doesn't appear on the scale, but in your mirror. I'm talking about your skin. The adult acne that insists on appearing on your jawline, the skin that has lost its glow and looks chronically tired. You spend a fortune on creams, believing the battle is fought on the surface. But the truth is that your skin is the news panel of your empire, reporting the crisis happening inside. That hormonal acne, for example, is not bad luck. It's a sign that your androgen hormones are dysregulated by excess cortisol. Your dull skin is not a lack of an expensive serum. It's your body whispering that your thyroid may be sluggish. I remember spending thousands on treatments for my psoriasis. My skin only found peace when I stopped treating it as an enemy and started listening to it as an ally. It didn't want another cream. It wanted me to put out the fire of inflammation at its source. The mindset of a sovereign is this: stop treating your skin, start deciphering its messages. Your practical decree to start sending a peace treaty to your skin is not a new serum. It's the sovereignty protocol. Swap one of your afternoon coffees for a cup of chamomile tea. Its anti-inflammatory and calming properties are a true balm. This first step begins to calm your skin. But what about the fatigue and that tiredness that seems to have no end? That is the second sign we will unveil, and it has a direct connection to how you manage your energy. You've deciphered the message from your skin. But what about the fatigue? That feeling that you're living with your tank on reserve, no matter how much you sleep. The second sign that your hormones are in disarray is this chronic and unexplained fatigue, which manifests as brain fog and a dependence on coffee just to function. You believe you're tired because you work too much. But the truth, my dear, is the opposite. You can only work so much because you live on stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You are not operating on real energy. You are operating on emergency energy. And this debt has a brutal cost. Think of your body as a country. The clean, sustainable energy from good sleep and good food is your main power grid. Cortisol is your diesel emergency generator. It's noisy, polluting, and meant to be used for a few hours in a real crisis. But you, the ruler of this country, have gotten used to keeping the emergency generator on 24/7. Your chronic fatigue is the sound of this overloaded engine. It is your body begging for a clean energy source. This is why you have energy peaks and crashes. This is why you wake up feeling as if you haven't slept. Your rest isn't being used to replenish your reserves, but to try to repair the damage your own emergency generator is causing. I remember a time when I measured my productivity by the number of cups of coffee I needed to survive the day. I romanticized the fatigue, saw it as a symbol of my effort. What I didn't realize was that my body was screaming for help, and my fatigue was the siren I insisted on ignoring. Your practical decree to start shutting down the generator is the first deposit protocol. The first thing you do when you wake up can no longer be a withdrawal, coffee, phone stress. It needs to be a deposit. Before anything else, drink a large glass of water and expose your face and eyes to sunlight for 5 minutes, even on a cloudy day. This simple act helps regulate your morning cortisol cycle naturally, signaling to your body that the emergency of the night is over and it can start operating calmly. You are giving your conductor the correct baton for the start of the day's symphony. We've disarmed the sign of the skin and of fatigue. But what about the most visible and frustrating sign of all? The one that stubbornly accumulates on your belly? That is our third sign, and its cause will surprise you. You've deciphered the messages of your skin and your fatigue. But what about the most stubborn sign? The one that confronts you every time you try to zip up a pair of pants? The third sign that your hormones are in mutiny is the accumulation of fat on your belly and waist, which seems to have a life of its own, ignoring your diets and workouts. You look in the mirror and the logic doesn't make sense. You might be losing weight in your arms or legs, but the fat on your belly seems to have a permanent lease. This is not age or genetics. It's a clear sign that two of your most powerful hormones, cortisol and insulin, are conspiring against you. As we've seen, chronically high cortisol, born from your high-performance lifestyle, is a master at ordering your body to store fat specifically in the abdominal region. It's the emergency reserve of your empire, but it doesn't act alone. It has an accomplice that makes its crime perfect: insulin, the hormone that manages sugar in your blood. A body living under the constant stress of cortisol becomes resistant to the voice of insulin. Imagine trying to give orders in the middle of a noisy battle. To make yourself heard, you have to shout louder and louder. That's what your pancreas does. It produces more and more insulin to try to do the same job as before. And the excess of insulin in your system has a single, brutal consequence. It is a fat storage hormone. Its presence at high levels literally blocks your body's ability to burn fat for fuel. You can be eating salad and running on the treadmill, but if your insulin is high, your body is biochemically prevented from accessing its fat reserves. You are trapped in a perfect sabotage cycle. Your stress increases cortisol. Cortisol increases insulin resistance. Insulin resistance increases fat storage in the belly. And the frustration of seeing this fat increase generates more stress. It is a biochemical prison. Your practical decree to start breaking this cycle is not another crunch. It is the sovereign walk protocol. After your lunch or dinner, take a light 10 to 15-minute walk. This simple act, without the stress of an intense workout, helps your insulin work more efficiently, lowering the blood sugar spikes from your meal and calming your body's need to shout. Now that we've unveiled the signs of the skin, of fatigue, and of abdominal fat, let's move on to the fourth sign. One that manifests not in your body, but in your mind, and that you probably blame on your lack of willpower. Let's talk about your cravings. You have deciphered the signs of your skin, your fatigue, and your belly. But what about the battle that happens in your mind? The fourth sign that your hormones are in disarray is the fierce and uncontrollable craving for sugar and carbohydrates that assaults you in the late afternoon and at night, sabotaging all your efforts. You blame yourself. You call yourself weak, undisciplined, addicted to sweets. You believe this battle is a matter of willpower, a moral war you are losing. But the truth, my dear, is that you are fighting on the wrong battlefield with the wrong weapons. Your sugar craving is not a character problem. It is a communication problem. It is your body, with its hormones in disarray, using the only language it knows to send you an emergency message. The craving is not the enemy. It is the messenger. When your stress hormones, like cortisol, are chronically high, and your insulin is unstable, your brain lives on an energy roller coaster. In these sharp drops in glucose, it panics. It doesn't understand diets, it understands survival. And for it, the fastest and safest source of energy to get out of a crisis is one thing: sugar. You are not craving a chocolate bar. Your body is screaming for a biochemical rescue to save you from the crisis that your own hormonal imbalance created. It is a perfect self-sabotage cycle, where the symptom, the craving, leads you to consume the very substance that worsens the cause, the imbalance. Your practical decree to start silencing this messenger is not more restriction. It is the sovereign reward protocol. When the craving comes, instead of fighting, negotiate. Give your body what it is really asking for, but in its elite version. Swap the milk chocolate for 2 squares of 85% dark chocolate. Swap the cookie for a handful of berries with nuts. This protocol is your first act of peace with your biochemistry. But what about the battle that happens in your mind? That moment when, even without hunger, the stress of the day leads you to seek comfort in the very foods that fuel this vicious cycle. That war, my dear, is not won with food. Deconstructing the habits that govern you, understanding the triggers in your environment, and reprogramming the patterns of your mind that use food as a reward, that is the complete war. For the sovereigns who understand that each day of imbalance is a day less of power in their empire and can no longer afford to wait, I detail this reprogramming system in my guide, The End of Self-Sabotage. The link is in the first pinned comment. Now that you have understood the first 4 signs, we are ready to unveil the last, the most intimate, and perhaps the most revealing of all. One that attacks your sense of feminine vitality at its root. Let's talk about your libido. You have unveiled the signs of your skin, your fatigue, your belly, and your cravings. But what about the most intimate sign? The one that attacks your sense of feminine vitality at its root. The 5th and final sign that your hormones are in disarray is the decline of your libido. No, my dear, you are not too old for this. You have not lost interest because your relationship has fallen into a routine. Your lack of sexual desire, most of the time, is not a psychological or relationship problem. It is a biochemical problem. It is your body, in survival mode, shutting down one of its most vital functions. Think of your body again as an empire in a state of war, governed by cortisol. In times of crisis, what is the first thing a government cuts from the budget? The arts, culture, celebrations, everything that is considered non-essential for immediate survival. In your body, your libido is the arts. It is the ultimate expression of your vitality, safety, and surplus energy. When your body is struggling just to have enough energy to get through the day, when it is managing inflammation and constant stress, it has no resources left to invest in desire and pleasure. It is in war-saving mode. Your libido has not disappeared. It has been strategically shut down by your own system to save resources for more urgent battles. That is why, at the end of an exhausting day, the idea of intimacy seems more like another task on your to-do list than a source of pleasure. Your body is not asking for connection. It is begging for repair. And this disconnection from your own desire makes you feel less of a woman, less vibrant, as if a fundamental part of you has been turned off. Your practical decree to start reigniting this flame is not new lingerie. It is the sovereign pleasure protocol. Start reintroducing small acts of sensory pleasure into your day that have nothing to do with food or another person. It could be the act of smelling your coffee for 30 seconds before drinking it. It could be listening to your favorite song at full volume for 3 minutes, alone in the car. These small acts begin to re-educate your nervous system, to show it that it is safe to come out of survival mode and feel pleasure again. You are slowly reopening the arts and culture department of your empire. The decree is made. The 5 signs that your body was screaming in silence have finally been translated. You now understand that your skin in crisis, your chronic fatigue, your stubborn belly fat, your uncontrollable cravings, and your declining libido are not sentences of your age, but messengers of a hormonal disorder. True sovereignty is not born from fighting these symptoms in isolation, with more creams, more coffee, or more crunches. It is born from the wisdom to see the root cause, to understand that your body is an orchestra and that your mission is to be the conductor, not just a spectator of the chaos. The ultimate goal is not just to have better skin or less fatigue. It is the power to look in the mirror and see your external strength reflecting your internal vitality. It is having the mental clarity and physical energy to command your empire with the excellence you know you possess. The decree is made. If you have decided to stop ignoring the signs and start deciphering the language of your body, your journey to biochemical mastery begins now. Subscribing to this channel is your public declaration that you are ready to take on the role of conductor of your own orchestra. Subscribe and activate notifications, because understanding the diagnosis is the first step. But true sovereignty comes from disarming the daily causes of this disorder, and the most powerful of them may be, at this very moment, disguised in your cup. Prepare, because in our next decree, we will expose how your morning coffee is keeping your belly bloated. Your empire needs this revelation.